We'll make a start. So welcome everybody to today's webinar on crafting a compelling pitch. My name is Roisin McDermott and I'm from Women in Business, and I run all the entrepreneurship programs in Women in Business and have done for the past couple of years. And we have Mark Roberts on here today, who is going to lead the session for us. So our rationale really, and I'll introduce Mark in a wee bit more detail, our rationale really on this is there's lots of pitches going on. And funny, I was actually delivering a session last night on the Go Succeed program, which I included a little bit about pitching, but really you're kind of pitching all the time for your business. There are the formal pitch, you've got 2 minutes and you're competing for funding or money or support. And then in a way, there's the more subtle approach where you are introducing yourself all the time to potential clients or other people or partners or funders. So in a way that they're a little bit of a pitch too, but in a bit more of a soft way and less scribed. So we want just to give people confidence about how they're showing up and what they're talking about. Obviously, some of you may be on here today who are members. Some people I know, certainly from the registration list, have had success pitching, which is great. And others, maybe you've never pitched at all. Some of you are members, I know, of Women in Business, and others maybe aren't. And you're very, very welcome if this is the first thing you've been to with Women in Business. We're really about supporting any woman who's trying to start a business or developing or growing a business to be confident and to progress with her idea and to sort of make a business out of it. So we're very much social enterprise and a charity who are here to improve things for you and make a fair playing field out there. A few pitches are coming up. I know locally we are having live pitches next week. There was about 30 people were shortlisted out of 98 applications. So those people will be doing a 2-minute pitch next week, followed by 3-minute questions. And I know as well tech start pitches are taking place next week, which are a very different sort of pitch because it's a longer time period and there's a slide deck and that's different for a much higher sum of money, of course. So I know there's a lot going on anyway. So you're all very, very welcome. Thank you to Mark, who is here today. Mark is from a company called XP Innovates, which they're based down looking over Carlingford Lough and sort of not far from Newry. And Mark has joined us today because he has a background really in working with startups and working in the high growth startup sector. He has spent time in Silicon Valley working in the startup space. Has been involved in various pitches for tech and other type of companies. Marcus also lectures at the University of Queen's in Queen's on international marketing and on new business creation. And he also works for Intertrade Ireland, is a specialist in tendering, works on their Go for Tender program. So a lot of different skills there, and really welcome you, Mark, for giving up your time today to run this for us and for the support of XP Innovates to run this session for us. Has been really, really gratefully received. So hopefully you're all going to enjoy it. Now the plan today is, because you may want to stay anonymous, I'm not going to invite you to introduce yourself in the chat unless you want to. I would say when Mark's talking, we will let Mark flow, but you can fire up question and answers. We will make sure we have 10-15 minutes at the end to ask questions or make comments, because some of you I know have personal experience. But if you just through the role of the content want to make any comments, you can make them in the chat if you're happy that your name might then pop up to other people. That's absolutely fine and we'd welcome that. So Mark, I'm going to hand over to you, and Suzanne is maybe going to share your slides so that everyone can.
Suzanne's on keyboards.
So we're just waiting for those to load.
Okay.
Excellent.
All right. So
Mark.
well, great. Thanks for that introduction. You bigged me up there a lot, and I hope I'll meet the expectations. I've got maybe 45 minutes to help you guys understand about pitching. So how do you craft a compelling pitch? The word craft there is telling. It's a creative process. It's not engineering. You're designing something. You're making something. It's compelling. It has to have an impact. It has to do something. We're going to talk about the fundamental structure of a pitch, your purpose, and the goals behind successfully pitching your business. Now, the first advice on pitching in your slide deck is do not read, like I've just done, read the text. You can read that text pretty quick. So remember that when you're doing the slides. Lesson number 1. Suzanne. Now, I've pitched and helped people pitch and talked about the pitch for years. And about 6 years ago, I was helping pitch at a hackathon in Belfast for AI. It's a smart lot of people making products in a weekend. And afterwards, a young fella came up to me and said, "Yeah, pitching," he said, "you change your life." And I said, I don't know what you mean. It's, well, if I pitch right and I get investment, I can change my entire life. So yeah, he can. And I should copyright that phrase because he can, because the line between failure or not doing quite so well and success is often razor thin. And in life and in business in particular, the pitch or the art of the pitch can change your life. It can make a big difference. So hopefully in the next 40 minutes or so, I can make some impact for you and get that pitch perfect, even though there's no such thing as a perfect pitch. Next slide, Suzanne. Who am I? Here's some examples. I don't want to blow my own trumpet, but if you don't blow your own trumpet, no one else will blow it for you. These are 4 people who I've helped pitch and talk about changing their life. Yeah, there's Jennifer from Elemental, and she pitched. Without help, got a pitch perfect, raised money, built a company, employed 15 or so people up in Derry, and sold that company all in 5 to 6 years. And without our help, learned the pitch, it probably wouldn't have happened, or would have happened in a different way. But Brian and John's, or St. John, I should say, I've helped pitch, and without our help, likewise, that line between doing just about okay to close an investment is all about the pitch. And it's me blowing my own trumpet. I don't like doing that. Next slide, Suzanne, but I've done it anyway. The next pitch, next outline. Okay, you can read that quicker than I can. But in basic terms, sounds like curriculum. It isn't. It's basically going to cover the comprehensive, understand the fundamental structure and purpose. I'm pitching, what essential techniques there are, and how you can create a compelling pitch, and some storytelling and draw inspiration from success shared by others. Well, we can try and do that in the next 45 minutes. We'll do our damn best. That sounds a bit structured. We'll go to the next slide. Next slide, Suzanne. Right. Outcomes of the day again. What is the purpose of a pitch? If you pitched before, you might think you know it. A lot of people haven't pitched before. You may not know what the purpose of a pitch is. We'll cover that. Understand the key components, the bits that go together to make a good pitch, and critically, how you define your goals for your pitch, because it's your pitch, no one else's. Don't forget that. Don't try to pitch someone else's pitch for them. It's your pitch. And that should be the outcomes for today. Next slide, Suzanne, if you don't mind. Okay, but the competition that Rashim talked about, you've got 2 minutes. Now, I know this is about anyone pitching for any competition or any reason to raise money, but that pitching session I think is going to be very interesting, because 2 minutes talk, 3 minutes question gets to the point and no slides. The learning point from that for any competition or anyone you're pitching to is do not deviate from the format given. Abide by the rules and look for the criteria. And if you're in doubt about who you're pitching to, ask them. If you're pitching to Techstart or EI or Invest Northern Ireland or local investors, ask them what the format is. Ask them how long the pitch is. Do not deviate from it. Now, if you're going to stand up in front of the women in a business group and you've got 2 minutes to talk, do not talk for 3 minutes. Do not talk for 5. Do not talk for 1 minute. Look at the format for the pitching competition, whatever competition you're in, and stick to that format. Talk to people who are on the other side of the panel. Next slide, please, Susan. Okay, you can read this slide, but quicker for me. In effect, to start a pitch, and Roisin mentioned it, she touched on it, it isn't just about standing up in front of people with a load of slides and talking to people and trying to persuade them. Your pitch becomes your dialogue. But in the basic terms, the investor pitch, you're asking people with money to place it into your firm. No better feeling. No better feeling. They're going to place their money into your business, and usually it's for equity, but they may not be. I was talking to Roshan before. I was a participant on a course in Stanford University 2 decades ago. The guy giving the course said, "For the great thing about raising money is you're getting other people's money into your business, and there's not a better feeling." So your startup pitch is about getting other people to put their money into your business. Now think about what that takes, and think about what you're asking them to do. And your pitch, when you perfect your startup pitch, becomes part of your dialogue. It becomes how you talk to people. That might be over a phone call, online, in person. To me, the pitch, your startup pitch, is almost the DNA of your business. It becomes part of you, part of your story. You are the story, and becomes part of your dialogue. So when you're on the phone to someone, or you meet someone at a conference or a convention, you can pitch your business. Now, the way to learn that is to pitch in front of people for money. Next slide, please. Okay, in short, and I'm taking a long way to tell a short story, I know, you are trying to get someone else. If you're participating in a competition, if you're attracting a new hire, you're trying to get funding, all those things, you're pitching your startup. Okay, it's critical that your journey, which takes 1 year or 5 years, every time you talk to someone, your pitch is your reason for them to support you. You're trying to create, if you like, a following of people. Some people give you money, some people support you, some people talk about you, but your pitch is very important. Next slide. Okay, same thing, cover it. Basically, you are trying to get someone else to put money into your business. Now, it's essential if you're raising money and you're pitching to an investor or to a government body, you have to understand your audience. Investors place money into your business to get a financial return. Government bodies like Enterprise Ireland or Invest in I or TechStart put money in to get a financial return, and they're looking for an positive economic impact. Now, essentially, this is economics, but that is with risk and it's over time. You have to understand that you need to have a plan, and you need to explain that there are risks to where you've got to and the risks you will face. Next slide, Suzanne. All right. That sounds a bit, I've kind of done the academic bit there, really. But anyway, pitches are ubiquitous. They're everywhere. Ubiquitous is a posh word for being all around us. Pitches are as old as we are. You hear pitches and you've seen pitches your entire life. Religions make pitches to us. They say, do the 6 things and you'll get this. Politics. Politicians put up manifestos. Not just in the last 10 or 15 years, but politics has been around for 1,000 years. So has religion. Politics, Obama, yes, we can. And another man said he was going to make America great again. He's pitching to you. Politicians pitch. Religious leaders make a pitch. So pitching is not something which we're alien to. We all make a pitch at some point in our life. But in this context, it's a startup pitch. Products promote themselves. They pitch themselves. If you do this, use my washing powder, you'll get white clothes. You'll smell fantastic. You'll look like an orchard in spring. Now, chat show guests, would you believe, pitch all the time? Would you believe that? Do you ever watch Graham Norton? A chat show guest, he's talking to them and he says, oh yeah, and you fell over, you fell out of a taxi. And the guy goes, yeah, I fell out of a taxi. Yeah, I was on the way to the premiere for a new film. And the whole conversation, the whole dialogue they have on that program, half of it is around people pitching their products, their movies, their books. I, in fact, have a book here where I can pitch. So the conversations of pitching an idea, getting you to go to do something for them is all around us. It's not new. TV and movie have trailers. You ever watch Netflix? You press the button. You watch 2 minutes or 1 minute. Trailers are not designed by accident. They don't take 1 minute of the movie and just throw it in there. They craft it very carefully. You watch the trailer because they want you to watch the movie. No, they don't. They want you to pay to watch the movie. They want you to have enjoyment. Book covers are the same. Book covers, you pick them up, you look at the book, you look at the front and the back, and you go, would I buy this book? It's the old traditional way. Now on Amazon, you don't pick up the book, but you look at the cover, you look at the dialogue, you look at the description. It's a pitch. So to some extent, your startup pitch becomes part of your dialogue. It also becomes part of your branding and your personal branding, your company branding, and your value proposition. Sometimes you just talk about your business, but you want to be able to pitch your business continuously to get support and funding. They're everywhere. Next, Suzanne, please. Okay, the fundamentals of the template. The pitch template really breaks a pitch down to 8 bits or 7 parts, 7 components. Think of them as a piece of Lego or Post-its. I'll show that later. In effect, you have about 8 parts to a pitch. You have the opener, the first 12 or 5 or 20 seconds. You talk about the problem, or we'll talk about that in a bit more detail. You have your solution to that problem. Investors want to see what traction you've made, what progress you've made, the validation plan, what you've done so far, what you're going to do in the future. You'll also introduce the team. They want to know who they're giving the money to. Another section of finance and the money, which most of us, I have to tell you, most of the startup people I've worked with tend to veer away from. You have to veer into it. You have to be confident with your numbers. And then somewhere in your pitch is an ask. What are you asking for? And that would be very much determined by your audience. And then there's a close. Okay, next slide, Suzanne. If you're doing a 2-minute pitch, you might condense these components. You might just start off with the problem as your opener. You might talk about the solution you have, or your service, your product, and what progress you've made, what progress you're going to make, who your team are and who you are. And then you might talk about your financials. And within your financials, you might put in the ask, because you might have 5 post-its or 5 slides, and your close. The close is very important. So that's how you condense and you change your templates, your components of your pitch from a 5-minute to a 7-minute to a 2-minute. It's the same components, just in different places. Suzanne, next slide, please. Right. The easy way to do this, you know, I had a friend I worked with, there's a guy called Steve, and he was great. One of his phrases was, experts make things simple. I don't think I made it simple yet. I probably made it sound more complicated. Okay, let's start to make it simple. If you break down your pitch into 8 bits, you get 8 post-its. You might have some post-its in front of you now. You might have a notebook. Break it into the 8 bits. If you use post-its, you use a single post-it, write down your problem or your solution, you find this on one post-it. Keep it that simple. The movement around on the wall or the table, that's your slide deck. That's your pitch. Keep it very simple. Don't make it complicated. Pitching is not complicated. People make things complicated, or people like to make things complicated to make them sound smart. Maybe I've just done it the last 20 minutes. Hopefully I haven't. But you break it down into 8 bits. That's all your pitch is. It's 8 post-its, and you put it together and you make a slide deck, 8 slides. So you can use this technique. Get 8 post-its, write down the ask, write down the traction, write down the team, put it on the wall and just practice it. That's where you start from. It's the DNA of your pitch. Next slide, please, Suzanne. Right, critical, and Roche mentioned this on a preamble chat last week, this week. Very important to know your audience. Now, what do I mean by that? If you've ever sold for a living and you sell products or services, you have to know who you're selling to. And really complex selling process or situation, you will find out everything you can about the person or people you're selling to. If you're pitching to a panel on a competition, or if you're pitching, for example, to Enterprise Ireland or Techstart or a group of investors, you have to know what they're looking for. You have to understand that your style might change. It might be a more of a people type style. It might be more technical. Depends who the audience is. You want to get asked questions. What questions are they going to ask? What can you expect? Will they ask questions? How many? For the pitching competition, you have 3 minutes. 3 minutes is a lot of questions. And if there's 4 people on the panel, guess what? They're all going to ask a question. That's the way it works typically. But recheck the criteria. I can't emphasize this enough. And it's quite simple. When you apply for a grant, for example, check the criteria. If you pitch into a panel, what's their criteria? So when they're assessing you, marking you, they're going to grade you on that criteria. So know your audience. It also means your pitch has to adapt for different audiences. That's essential. Not, you ever met those fellas who talk the same way about the products or their business, the whole same way every time you meet them? If it's over a cup of coffee or they're pitching the same thing, you have to adapt. Your pitch has to adapt. You can adapt. Next slide, Suzanne, please. Next slide. Okay, great. Introduction. Right, I'm going to go through each part of the template, okay? Intro post-it. Be clear, be succinct, and be positive, right? This is where you have to grab their attention. When you open your pitch, I'll tell you why. The other piece of advice is don't rush to start, and do not rush your start. Why? Okay, let's say, for example, you're up pitching to this competition, and there's 8 people pitching, and you're number 4, or number 1, or number 3. It doesn't make any difference. Something has happened before you. The people on the panel are trying to scribble down their criteria, right? You've got one chance to get their attention. Make sure you take your time to start. We're only human beings, we're not robots, right? So the people on the panel, or your investors, their minds thinking of a whole lot of different things. Is the seat comfortable? Why am I warm? Am I late? That last one, who was it again? You're making notes. So when you get up to start, do not rush to start. Don't rush your start. Take your time. You've got to grab their attention. Now, you could be melodramatic, you could be to the point, but make sure you get their attention and they're looking at you. You are the person they're going to invest in. So look at them, practical advice, look at them, try to get eye contact, try to get their conversation, try to get their attention. Because, do you believe it or not, the people on the panel or investors are only human, and you're only human. So a pitch at an anthropological level is a human activity. Don't rush your start and don't rush to start. You've got to get their attention at the beginning. Next slide, please, Suzanne. The problem. Problem's a negative connotation. Most businesses get invested in do solve a problem. You can call it, if you like, a market opportunity. And what challenge you're trying to address? What are you trying to fix? Or what opportunity it isn't being fixed at the moment? I don't personally like the whole connotation that there's a problem to solve. There's like a challenge to solve. There's someone having a problem. Often the challenge is a group of businesses they face and they can't quite manage to rota their staff or they can't get rid of their wastes. Yeah. And when you talk about the problem critically, absolutely essentially, you are pitching a business to business-like people. So you have to frame your problem in the way you pitch yourself with data, with numbers and money and context. It has to be measurable and identified. And that sounds probably a bit too much. But when you're talking about, don't say, for example, a common mistake, the market opportunity is huge. Don't do that. We've all done it. Say the market opportunity is currently measured around £250 million a year in the UK alone. There are currently 16,000 customers. I just made that up. But it's numbers. It's growing at 25%. The people you're pitching to are investing in a business and investing in you. But you have to frame the thing. This is a business you're talking about. Next slide, Suzanne, please. Your solution is your product. It's your value proposition. Talk about your product. Don't overdo it. Do you fall into that category of entrepreneurs who just talk about the product all the time? Well, if you do, you're in the 90% category. People usually talk about the product over and over and over again, or they talk about what they've done. Okay, don't overdo it. People invest in businesses to solve a problem, to seek and gain traction in the market. But talk about your product and talk about how it's different. Again, frame it with data and features, especially if it's a technical product. But even if it's not a technical product, even if it's clothing, talk about where the cotton's from or where the fabric's from, whatever it is. But give people context so they can understand what it's about. And say how customers will get access to your product. Next slide, Suzanne. I hope you're all listening so far. No one to sleep. Right, my story. Never talk about the kelp. Quick story. Woman, one of the smartest, brilliant women I've ever met in my life. She kept talking about the product. She had a kelp farm near Rathlin Island. Her name is Kate Burns. Most wonderful, fantastic, smart person you'll ever meet. But her story was whenever you met her, all she talked about was kelp all the time. Kelp wasn't the pitch. Kelp is basically a kind of vegetable grows in the sea, right? And Rathlin Island, believe it or not, on the coast of Northern Ireland, has the perfect environment for kelp. Who knew? Well, if you met Kate Burns, you'd know about it because that's what she talked about was kelp. She was fascinated by it. But her market opportunity, the problem she was solving wasn't kelp. The problem she was solving was there are restaurants across the world, fish restaurants, fine restaurants, who want kelp in their menu. Okay? And again, sorry, I'm looking at a question that popped up. And then her product wasn't kelp, as you can see on the screen. Her product was in a lovely container with branding. What it wasn't actually. What restaurants in London or Cornwall or Paris or Tokyo want is it's shipped to their restaurant in time, on time, at the right cost. So it's never about the kelp, although kelp is a good thing, by the way, it's very healthy. And I had to taste it and I had kelp pesto. And I'm not sure where the business is even going. But don't talk about your product all the time, even if it is kelp and you know all about it. So next slide, please, Suzanne. Traction. What people are interested in, and one particular thing I learned in Silicon Valley, listen to me, la-di-da, was they're very interested in traction. It means, what have you done so far? Because everyone could talk about the product and what they're going to do and understand the market and all the research they've done. But yeah, what have you done so far? Traction. It's the commercial validation. What customers have you got? Have you got any? Have you got any lined up? Have you got a prototype? Have you got funding already? Have you put money into yourself? But this challenge of making something a business from nothing, that's where you start from, is the DNA of your business. Okay, it proves to people, if you don't need to know the market and the product, and you're fantastic, and you can stand up and talk, but if you really can do it, you've got the grit. And when they invest in your business, you're going to spend their money wisely and make more traction. Okay, it illustrates, I can read at the bottom of the screen, what progress you've made, and critically, what progress you might make with their money invested in your business. Get traction. I talked about that a lot in Silicon Valley. Next slide, please, Suzanne. Thank you very much. Team. Introduce yourself and your team. Do not over-introduce your team. Don't talk about your team like they're kelp. Keep it lean. Keep it clean. talk about their roles and relevant experience and what they're going to do going forward. Okay. If it's a big presentation, 5 or 7 or 12 minutes, you can talk about the technology. If it's, it's a really super complicated product, what they're going to do. Because in effect, if an investor or you in a competition, they put their money into a business, it's that team are going to make the things happen, right? It's the dream, the team makes the dream work, right? So they're going to put their money into your bank account and your team is going to make the difference, not you. So you have to make sure there's a good profile. If you've got a 2-minute pitch, you keep that clean and short, no more than 20 seconds. But if you're doing a high-level technical pitch on a product that deals with medical devices and products, you're going to have to spend 2 minutes on it. Okay. Next, please, Susan. Financials. Oh, everyone hates financials. I've never met an entrepreneur who stands up and says, I can't wait for the finance slide, except someone who needs to be an accountant or has a brother who's an accountant who does a slide for them. Anyway, keep it short, keep it sweet, keep it understandable for you and for the audience. I recommend different things. My recommendations are free cash flow and profit and loss. We expect to make in 3 years. Techstart might expect a 5-year plan. Well, so they should. They're investing in a longer-term business. But ask your audience. In your funding requirement, ask on this slide, ask what you're looking for. Tell them what people you're looking for. We're looking for under £20,000, or we're looking for £20,000, or we're not looking for financial investment. We're looking for support. Be straightforward. Critical. You have to know this because your Q&A, the one question is going to trip you up is that we've all watched Dragon's Den, for crying out loud, is the finance question. So know it. Why? You are asking people to invest in a business, not your product. It's a business. Okay, so finances are important. Get to know it, keep it short and sweet, succinct, but know your numbers. Don't know every number, but know the numbers you know. Next slide, please, Suzanne, if that's okay. Okay, next, sorry. Okay, the ask. Somewhere in your pitch. It doesn't have to be a separate slide, but in your finances or in your products, somewhere your close, you can have an ask. All right. I had an American brother-in-law, God bless his soul, he's dead now. Anyway, but he had a great phrase. He was raised in Ohio, and he used to say, I was a timid 15-year-old English boy. Could you imagine that? He said, if you don't ask, you don't get. He didn't talk that all the time, by the way. He's actually very qualified aeronautical engineer, but he did. He said, if you don't ask, you don't get. And you may or may not be surprised how many people pitch and don't ask for the things they really want, they're looking for. Now, it might be financial, because we always think that when you're pitching for your business, you're saying, I want this amount of money. But you might want support. You might want help. Don't be afraid to ask for it. You might be pitching for a finance or support or partnership or grant funding. Change your pitch for your funding. Or is it support? The great thing about people like Enterprise Ireland, Invest and I, they'll give you financial grants, but they can also give you expertise and access and networks. Be very clear in what you're asking for. Now, I've muffled my way through that slide, but you've got to be a lot clearer. Be succinct and just get to the point. And don't overlabor it like I am right now. Suzanne, next slide. Close. You must have a close. You must finish the last chapter. The book has to end. The TV program has to end. Be clear, succinct, and positive. Okay? Connect, show gratitude, be grateful. The great thing about people on the island of Ireland, and I'm not from here, I've been there 30 years, is people are very polite here and grateful. Show my example of that is my daughter went to Bristol and she said to me, Dad, no one says thank you to the bus driver. Say thank you to the bus driver. All right, say thank you for the opportunity to pitch. Be positive. It's not going to get you from ninth in the pile to number 2, but it'll help. It always helps. Don't forget you're human. You're a human being pitching to other humans, believe it or not. Next slide, please, Suzanne. Be clear. Next slide. Thank you. Dealing with questions. Now, I've said this and I've said it a long enough. People could disagree with me, but I don't think I'm wrong. Okay, I probably am. Dealing with questions will make or break you. Because anyone can get up and pitch and get there 2 minutes or 5 minutes. Well, not anyone. But how you deal with questions and how you deal with questions after you've made your 2-minute pitch on a phone call or face-to-face is essential. This will grade you from 10th to 2nd. Dealing with questions is important. It's very critical if you're selling anything and you're pitching a business. If you get a question, don't answer it straight away. Have a pause. If you are not sure, clarify it. Answer it and keep your answer succinct and to the point. What do we all do? Well, I am the worst at it. I get a question, I talk about 20 minutes or something else. Do not do that. Answer the question, people. Ladies, women, answer the question. Now, men are worse than women, I can tell you that much, because they go on about, oh, talk about the products again. No. Don't do that. Answer the question. Listen to the question to answer it. Okay. A lot of people will listen to the question just to talk. They wait till people finish. Do not answer the question. Practice your question answering more than the pitch. Simple technique there. I learned 30 years ago, an interview technique. STAR, Google it. It's a very, very old formula. If you're answering the question, give a situation, what the target was, what the action was, and what the result was. Now, that doesn't answer for all questions, but if someone says to you, well, how have you made this progress? Well, we did this last year. That's what we aimed at. This is what we did, and we got this result. Find more formulas like that, but practice your questions with yourself against the mirror or with a friend. It's very important because your question will make or break whether you actually get investment, not whether you do well at the pitch. Next slide, Suzanne. Just recovering old ground. This won't take long. Use data and context. Get it. Don't forget they're investing in a business. You are developing a business. Okay. Talk about profit and loss, impact. Talk about percentage. Talk about markets. You have to know this inside out. Put it in. It's not all words. It's not all speech and drama. It's not a poem reading competition. Okay. It's data and context. Next slide, please, Suzanne. Thank you very much. Slides. Hard to do that. Well, it's not hard to do that. I haven't spent a lot of time on slides, but basically avoid using this. You can find lots of this stuff on the internet, but in effect, it's stuff you can learn yourself. Avoid using more than 2 or 3 colors. Keep the color palette minimal. Do not use high and low contrast. You can read this yourself. Slides for investors, the tech start, the enterprise island. Of course, you will need more data and finance. Do not put too much text on a slide. And when you put text on a slide or too much, we are drawn 90% of us to read the text. When someone's reading the text on your slide, or wherever the slides are on your screen, they're not listening to you. Because unless you're a robot, it's very difficult to read the text on the screen and listen to someone at the same time. You don't want too much text. Again, but that depends on your audience. Okay, next slide, please. How am I doing for time? Oh, not bad, not bad. Probably too much. That's an example of a good slide, a bad slide. Next slide, Suzanne. Let's go through this. Storytelling. The whole world's talking about storytelling. Of course, storytelling is important. Why is it important? Because the whole world's a story. You're a story. We were taught history through stories. We watch TV programs. Next slide, Suzanne. We can see that storytelling is important. Here's 2 stories. The Dairy Girls. Who doesn't like the Dairy Girls? They should be shot at dawn. Or we have to cut that out of the recording. Dairy Girls. Watch 1 episode of Dairy Girls. You get 1 story. You also get 5 or 6 stories in it. It's a story. The whole program is a story. The whole program, how the story was made, is a story. All TV programs are stories. On the right-hand side of your screen, this is a cave drawing. Yeah, look at that. What do you see? Be careful now. Stories are as old as we are. Pitching is as old as we are. This is a cave drawing of anthropologists have decided that this is a cave drawing of a bison running over a person. And it just happens to have a bird in the picture as well. I'm not sure why. It's a story being told, right? Or is a lesson in it? I don't know. Point is simple. This is 17,000 years old. A cave drawing is in southern or middle France. It is 17,000 or 14,000 years old. Someone took the time to paint that to depict a story. We're all about stories. Learn your story. Craft your story. I could spend 3 or 4 hours talking about that. I can't do it in 2 or 3 minutes, but get the point. Your pitch is a story. You want people to remember your story when they go home and talk to their husband or their wife or their cat or the mirror. You want them to remember your story because stories are easy to tell. Next slide, please, Suzanne. Right. It's actually not true. Your starting point when you pitch is that you have to pitch from the perspective, or at least give it some thought, but no one cares about what you're doing. Your job is to make them care. Your job is to make them feel things and create an interest. And no one's heard of you. Okay? Just because you're big in your own bathroom, yeah, or you're big where you work, or you've talked to people in the foot, doesn't matter. You've got to start. Your starting point is, when I pitch today, these people haven't heard of me, and really they don't care about me. Now, not suggesting that no one cares, but you've got to make them care. That's your job when you pitch. That's your purpose. Okay? I don't want to sound too hard, but it is. That's where you start from. When you meet people and you sell to them, no one knows who you are. They haven't heard from you. Next pitch. That sounds a bit harsh. Your opener, you have to nail it. You have to nail that pitch. You've got 1 minute or 20 seconds or 12 seconds to do that. Make sure that works. Practice that well. Next slide, please, Suzanne. This is a great phrase which has been used a lot in the last 3 or 4 years about connection, not perfection. I had a great time about 4 years ago working with a lot of women on pitching, and you know, you imagine it was like a hen night every day at work, and the crack was mighty, and they kept talking about Pitch Perfect because I had no idea what this film is, and I had two teenage daughters, I should have known. But the point is, whatever that digression is, there is no such thing as a perfect pitch. You can do it really well. You'll say it's perfect. But a perfect pitch is more about connection. Your job, your task is to connect with people and get connection and get fun, not about perfection. Next slide, please, Suzanne. All right, doing a cap of time. Conversation and dialogue. When you give that speech, when you give that talk, you're trying to get their front of mind thinking and talking. So they're having a conversation with their own self. So when they come to the questions, their dialogue and their conversation, their questions are already there. You're trying to create that. So you've got to talk in a way which isn't talking down to people or lecturing like I started this presentation. That you've got to talk in a way that is conversational, which they get, they can understand. You're trying to get a dialogue, as odd as it might sound, the dialogue with their mind when they're listening to you. You'll only know afterwards. Next slide, please, Suzanne. Okay, seeing is hearing is not done by the ears, and I'm a neuroscientist now. Gee, I started blowing me on trumpet. Now I'm a neuroscientist. I've been an anthropologist, I've been a marketeer. Okay, it's simple terms. When light goes through your eye, it goes to about 5 different places in your brain, and your brain does different things. Okay, people aren't robots. When you hear something, you don't hear the dog bark, and you wonder where the dog's bark, where it is, or when you see something, different parts of your brain work. You get emotional when you see certain things, right? And seeing and hearing is not done by your ears and your eyes. It's done by your brain and your heart and your feelings. You can see something and your adrenaline rushes. All right, don't forget that. Do not stand up like a robot. Do not think these people are robots. They are just human like us. And when you see things and hear things, when you talk, they are seeing and hearing something completely different to what you expect it is. Okay? Bit of a digression there. Next slide, please, Suzanne. Can we play the Suzanne, do you think? We'll try. This is a slide about observation.
This is an awareness test. How many passes does the team in white make?
How many passes does the team in white make? Okay, get counting, guys. 1, 1, 6, 7, 8. Oh, that was a good throw. Oh, yeah. Whoa, she's good. Okay, right, yeah. It's under a subway somewhere, isn't it? It looks a bit grimy wherever they are. I don't know.
The answer is 13.
That's good, but I only thought 9.
But did you see the moonwalking bear?
Well, I did because I've seen the video before. But did you see the moonwalking bear? Now, you may have seen this video before. It's an old video, but it's actually around road safety. I think it's an Australian road safety awareness campaign. Okay. The point there, next slide, is simple. Look out for cyclists. No, the point there in simple, actually Transport for London. It's simple. People see things differently. So be sure that you are clear and your visuals are good. And don't be afraid that someone asks you a question about something you've presented because they may not have heard it. Okay. So be aware in simple terms when you get up like I'm doing now, I'm talking to 25 people now, each one of you will hear and feel and see something different. Totally different. Okay. How am I doing for time? Not bad. Lexicon. Lexicon is a posh word for words. Okay. Now, what am I saying here? Okay, I've met 1,000 entrepreneurs, and I can't even say the word entrepreneur. And they use the word huge. I've got a huge market. It's a huge opportunity. You don't. You say something like, well, the market's worth 235 million and it's growing at 15%. And there's sectors, and you break it down and use words. I'll give you an example. Do you ever take your child to parent-teacher meeting and you talk to the teacher? You don't say, how's he doing, do you? You say, how's my little Johnny doing? How's he progressing in the classes? How are his grades? You find this language from somewhere. Do not use the same word over and over again. Improve your lexicon, improve your words, improve your word. Because you are being judged and you're being assessed, and they're looking for intellect, and they want you to understand and describe your market and your business clearly with different words. We all have a habit of using the same vocabulary. So just try to mix it up a little bit. Don't use the word huge, for example. True story. I once helped a company pitch and their name was Huge Rugby. Yeah, it was on the afternoon. Anyway, next slide, please, Suzanne. Huge Rugby. Time. If you have been given a 2-minute pitch, you stick to 2 minutes. You do not go over it. You do not deviate. You just stick to the time you're given. Have a perspective on this. 1 minute is 60 seconds. You could add 20 seconds on one thing and 40 seconds on the other, split it up. A very interesting perspective I was given by an advisor, a very tough woman called Mary. We used to call her Scary Mary because she was scary. She's advised our startup companies on our programs we used to run. And she said, guys, when you stand up, stop gibbering and talking a lot. Just imagine if each word you use when you answer a question or in your pitch cost you £1,000, you would talk a whole lot less. Next slide, please. I'm not going to get through these slides, but I'll try my best. Okay. That's good for you, Margaret. Authentic. Margaret, how you doing? Be authentic, confident and smile. I'm trying my best to be myself today. I'm not trying to be anyone else. Be confident and smile. Be your confident self and smile. People don't invest in people who don't smile. It's simple. And if confident is contagious, if you're confident in what you're doing, they're going to say, hey, at least I know I'm investing in someone who's got some confidence in what they're doing, and they're smiling, and they're themselves. Authenticity is important. Do not stand up and be someone else and talk a grand way, but when you talk to them, you talk normally, because they're going to say, there's two different people. He was posh over there, now he's not. Yeah, be yourself. Nothing like being yourself. Next slide, please. I say this to all the women I advise, never to men. I use Freddie Mercury. Have some swagger about yourself, guys. Yeah, get up there and be strong. You've come from nothing. You've got your business. Pitch the business, okay? And I don't know why I use Freddie Mercury, but just, yeah, he's a quick, I'll tell you why. Because he was a quiet man from a tough background, yeah? And but he had swagger, didn't he? And that's what made him stand out from his own band. So have some swagger about yourself. Have some confidence when you get up there. Try not to grow the moustache and wear pants with red stripes, but be yourself and be confident. You're up there, right? We're not normal. Entrepreneurs are not normal, but get up there and do your thing, like a bit like Freddie Mercury or Madonna or whoever you pick. Next slide, please. Right. When you stand and pitch, I'm giving practical advice here. Stand still. Stand in one place. If you're not sure, if you keep fidgeting around, it's not good. Stay in one spot. Maybe put something on the floor to remind you to stand in one spot. We have a tendency to fidget. I fidget all the time. I wave my arms all the time. Stand still. Keep your arms down and pause between each slide. Put the slide up, just like I haven't done in this presentation. Put the slide up, let people read it, and pause. Let them read the slide, then talk. I haven't done that because I'm trying to get through too much. Next slide, please. Check the tech. Do you ever write a document or make a PowerPoint and your PC looks absolutely fantastic? It looks amazing. And then someone puts it on a projector or a big screen and it looks pretty bad, right? Pretty crap. Yeah, I think you know what I mean. Or you get there and they say, we don't use PDFs, or we don't use PowerPoint, we don't use. Check the technology. Be kind to the facilitators. Be kind to Roshin or whoever's responsible for setting up the tech and putting your slide on. If you have been asked to give your slides 24 hours before, guess what? You put your slides up 24 hours before. You don't go there via USB or send it by email. Don't do that. Don't be that person. I once did a pitch presentation session and I had 5 men around my PC trying to update their pitches on my PC 2 minutes before, and I lost my temper, because you have to be kind to the people who are helping you. Running an event is hard, and running a panel day is very difficult. You have to try and give as much time equally. It's difficult. Do not mess with the tech. Be kind to facilitators. Next slide, please. It's competitive. Life's competitive. You're competing against each other, but if you come second or third or fourth or last or whatever it is, that doesn't make any difference. The competition is not this pitching session. It's not if you get investment for Enterprise Ireland. The competition keeps going on. It's a long old run being an entrepreneur. But life is competitive. Let's not forget that, okay? Let's not forget. Well done. Now, it's competitive, right? And so don't forget that. But don't worry if you don't come first or second, if you don't get picked. You keep going. You keep going. Life's competitive. Next slide, please, Suzanne. Oh, and the panelists, guess what? Panelists can be wrong. They've got to make an opinion. They've got to draw up an assessment. They've got to use criteria to see how well you've done. I know a guy who didn't invest in Google. Would you believe that? He got pitched to in 2001 and he didn't pitch. He said, and he's a very crafted, very wealthy man in California. He didn't pitch in Google. He would have owned an island in the Caribbean, but he said no. So they're not always right. So if you come fourth or fifth or sixth or last, don't worry. You keep going. Next slide, please, Suzanne. Gratitude. Always show gratitude. always say thank you to the bus driver. Get up and say thanks. Say thank you all the time. People remember people. They like that warmth. It's just a human connection. Next slide, please.
Hi, Mark. If you try to wrap up shortly, please.
This is the last slide. It will be.
Oh,
It's
good.
too important. Don't take it too seriously, okay? Because one of the things that people do is they get too pent up with these things. Try to relax and enjoy it. I've seen too many people get worked up so much. It's too brittle. Don't enjoy the process of pitch, and it could be fun. Not as much fun as listening to my presentation, I'm sure. Next slide, please, Suzanne. Practice, practice, keep practicing. It's the best advice I can give you. All you can do. Just keep practicing. Next slide. It's a treadmill. You'll keep going back. Okay? It's a treadmill. Learn from it. Learn from it. If you come last, wherever you come from, learn from it. Ask the panelists for feedback. If you win or you lose. Next slide, please. Outcomes for today. Sounds like I'm lecturing or not. Next slide, please. That's it. I've tried my very best to give much information as I can in that time. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you've got questions now, by all means, we'll hand over to Roisin. He'll probably do a better job than me. There are some videos at the end of this pitch, and I think it will be distributed this slide deck and even the video. That's me. Thank you very much for listening. I hope that was useful.
Mark, thank you so much. That's fantastic. Yeah, if you just shut down the slides. So there are some questions, so I wanted to keep you involved here in the chat. And I love the thing about the busman. I've always said thank you to the busman until they created the glider bus, and now I get off in the middle, don't see the busman, but it is a real thing. You're always taught to say thank you for everything, whether it was free, not free, whatever. So really enjoyed it. I loved you got really focused in on a lot of key issues, and there's a wee bit of chat here which I'll try and pick up on. Yeah. So I realized some people have shared as well that they're going for seed corn. Katrine, you shared you're going for seed corn. I can't seem to chat on that. How long is the seed corn pitching last? And do you get to use a slide deck and that, just so I have a feel for that? I'll make a few comments on some of these questions because I will be hosting the All Ireland Intertrade sponsored competition next week. And I have coordinated pitching competitions for a number of years. So the couple of wee things, Mark, that I would pick up on what you said is different audience, guys. So sometimes judges are quite, if you have a techie product or service and the judges aren't techie, be very careful about absolutely overwhelming them with tech, because, and certainly our All Ireland pitching judges are not tech people. And we're in Tech Start, they will be people used to listening to a lot of tech data. So just be mindful of that. Also, if you say, for example, you are shortlisted and you get picked on the All Ireland competition, and then you go forward to pitch live at our conference, remember then you will be voted by the public, and they will react different. They aren't listening to the data, they're listening to the drama. They love the storytelling and the purpose and your why. So they will vote differently. Whereas in a judging panel, we want the data. And I love what you said, Mark, there about don't be saying I have done extensive research. That is no use to judges. Did you interview 25 companies? Did you phone them? Did you speak to 100 people? Give us the data, because anybody could say this is a huge, it's like saying I have a high quality product, I'm a high quality trainer. Anybody can use those vague terms. So you need to validate a little bit. I do love what you were saying about the passion, really important storytelling, the passion, because that's we're investing in the entrepreneur and the person, not just sometimes the idea. So I thought that was really good. I think that the challenge, certainly, it's a wee bit like your challenge, how you do this webinar in 40 minutes. Yeah. It's a real challenge to take all your advice there and put it into 2 minutes. And I would say about the questions, again, the point you made about the questions, about not rambling on, which it's a natural thing to do.
We will do.
You only have 3 minutes. So if you spend 3 minutes answering one question, the judges have no opportunity to ask you anything more. Yeah. And what that means is you might leave, you might have had a good pitch, but you're on a level with other people and we didn't get more information from you because you blathered on. So just pull back, answer the question, stop, because we will use the 3 minutes. We will ring bells, and so use your 3 minutes.
So just quickly on Seedcorn, I have marked and assessed business plans on Seedcorn for 4 years. So I'm very, very familiar with Seedcorn. If anyone wants to reach out to me, I can give them a 20-minute phone call. I have no problem at all. And all I can promise is some advice. But Seedcorn is a very formal very structured, business-like, government-funded environment. So your pitch needs to match that, and they do give you lots of advice on what they want. The guy who runs that is a guy called Connor Sweeney. He's top drawer. He's a lovely guy. If you're not sure, contact Connor and ask him.
Brilliant. Just running through these questions, and I'll start here and you can help me then, Mark. But what would a typical financial question be? So this is in relation to the pitch next week, which you've only got 3 minutes. So what I would say from sitting on these before, I don't know what they will ask you. I am not a judge, but it could be what's your unit cost. So if you're making a product, do you know how much the direct cost of that is to make? It could be about your pricing. They could sometimes pitches. It all sounds like a great idea, but we're very confused as judges and how do you monetize it? So where do you make your money, especially things like apps and tech stuff? Who's going to pay what to how do you monetize it would be an issue. And maybe knowing something about what you hope to, sell in terms of your sales targets. So profitability sales targets would be kind of things. Have you anything else you want to comment on?
One thing that I might ask you, you should actually present is where if you're looking for 150,000 or 300,000 pounds investment, you might talk about the use of funds. So this is where we're going to spend that money.
To an investor, if you're going to an investor, absolutely.
I'll ask you that, but they're going to ask you. They're going to ask you why people typically, on general terms, how did you get to that price point?
How did you come up with that price?
What's your cost going to be? What's your margin going to be? And they're usually things you stumble on, but try not to. Just be clear and succinct. Well, and if you haven't got the answer, say we're working on that, or we think it's this.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. What if your team is just you? Nadine says, and that's fine. A lot of the time, it's just the entrepreneur. But it's the kind of thing like if you are creating a product or an app for the healthcare sector, it's really important that we know that you actually were a nurse or in healthcare management. That gives a whole lot of more credibility because it means you know your market.
Credibility and provenance, and that's they're investing in you. So in simple terms, keep it simple. You're asking people to put their money into your bank account. So they want to know that the people who look after that money are going to build this business have some idea of what they're trying to do. So if you can say, well, this guy was a doctor or this guy was a researcher or whatever it is, get it in there. You're selling a team.
Okay, and then there's someone asking there about they're in the pitch, the one next week, which is for startup traders. I don't really have exciting profit loss numbers. That's okay. So should I focus on numbers around growth? Yes, absolutely. Where do you hope to be in your sales figures going ahead, and by when? Are you trying to achieve 30 grand sales by the end of year 1 or 60 grand by the end of year 2? We want to see potential growth.
In basic terms, team guys, you have to show you're aiming towards something. Now, my wife is most British. You have to say, I'm going towards this direction. On the bus drive, you keep thanking, but we know where we're going, right? So you have to give an indication, but you have an idea where you're going to go. The truth is, 99% of startups don't go anywhere near where they're going to go, but they have confidence and a determination to go in a certain direction. And so those finance figures you have to be confident with them. The litmus test is, if you're not confident with figures and money, then you're not going to be confident to run a business. Because business is measured by money, and the lifeblood of business is cash. So you have to have a confidence about it. And there's a lot of people who do aspire to be entrepreneurs who don't have that. So, either get hold of it or
and if you're not confident, fake it. That's what I say. So
I wouldn't say that at all.
You're only on here for 5 minutes. What are the biggest mistakes in storytelling to avoid? Mark, what do you think on that?
Don't tell the stories are too long. Don't tell lies. But if you can tell a lie, tell a good one. And I have heard people tell fibs. Try not to avoid big, long stories. Make the story fit your business, and there's certain stories you can tell. I think most investors or people even working in Intertrade, I don't invest in EI, they like the grit. They like that story of how you got up and made something, or you stopped being this and you try to make something. That's the best story. I'm not sure there's what you can.
Okay.
Telling stories that aren't relevant. Don't do that.
Okay, great. Just then flicking here through our chat. Seed Corn is a 3-minute pitch focused on investment. Just some thank yous about people working on their confidence. All
Listen,
good.
I'm a man, right? I know that. But I spent a lot of time working with my wife, and we have a secret kind of thing going on, but don't tell anyone else. But I love working with women and getting their confidence up, because that line of failure. Men, I have 2 daughters. They're both in jobs, and they both come back and say, "Why are these men can sit around talking like they're running the world?" They're not, but they do. It seems to be kind of inbuilt in them, right?
Yeah, there's
But
people saying about your passion, show your passion, believe in yourself, believe in your journey.
show passion, but show ability. Don't get too emotional, but show your confidence in yourself, what you can do. You know, failure is my superpower. Absolutely. Well, turn it around and you apply it. You know,
And
I am not a confident person. Absolutely not
And
confident.
I just want to mention that from Katrine Cube Fun. She applied for our competition 3 years in a row, and she won it in the 3rd year. And she
Exactly.
was
It's a journey. It's
and
a
has won
journey.
another 3. So you have to look at it as a journey and a learning experience, and don't be taking it personally if you don't get through.
No,
Because
don't.
ultimately,
I'm a man. I want to talk about football. Some of the most successful footballers you may know, and I know, have been around. They'll never make it to the 21, 20, 24. They start when they're 9. You know, it's a long journey to be successful in life, and an entrepreneur is no different. If you give up after 1 year, guess what? You're never going to get investment because people want to see that grit and that determination.
yeah.
Particularly angel investors, they want to see that you've got the scars and you're challenged to make things successful, and the scars are important. Jeff Bezos, I read a great quote from him last week. If you're not willing or ready to be embarrassed, do not innovate.
Okay, and could I just ask, Suzanne, would you just share the wee slide which has the wee QR code, or could you put it there in the group chat? So there's lovely feedback coming in there. I think people have found this useful and timely, probably as well, Mark. But if you wouldn't mind just share, or I haven't even talked about our conference coming up. So if anybody wants to come and see 6 live pitches, we will have at our entrepreneurs conference on the 6th of June, we will have 6 people pitching live, doing a 2-minute pitch. And we will also be announcing the winners of the Tech Start. So if it's something you're on a learning journey about this and you want to see that, you'll find that really useful. Plus loads of fab speakers and loads of great connecting and networking. It's all really relaxed atmosphere.
Just
really
quickly, do you know that
Mark.
learning? Do you know that one of the best places to learn about startup pitches is to go and watch other people pitch? Because you'll see that they're not all fantastic, and you see some of them are fantastic, some of them are not, and you see what slides are used. And it's nothing like learning something by watching people doing it. And that's a really easy way to learn, because you're not sitting there, but you're not going to be marked on it. There's no multiple choice at the end. Just go and watch pictures.
Yeah. And I would say as well, there is a little bit, don't be offended and feel, because sometimes judges are influenced by their knowledge of the market and their experience in the market, and that can, there is a little bit of subjectivity while they're scoring sheets and criteria. So don't always be offended, because that point you made about, really, it doesn't mean you don't have a great business. It doesn't mean you're not going to make your millions. So don't
let the guy I talked about there is a real guy. His name's Leslie. I've known him for 30 years. He's an angel investor, invested great. He Google pitched to him in 2002, and he said no. If he'd put £5,000 in that company, he would own a Caribbean island. But he was willing to say, and this is the vulnerability part of it, he's willing to stand up and say, I didn't get it. There was other people doing this. So even as the person on the panel, as an investor, he was able to say, I didn't get it. I didn't get the guys. I didn't kind of get it.
Yeah.
I wish I had, but I didn't.
I just want to answer there, because I know I don't think that this might shut down in a wee minute because it was a time bound. So can we go to the pitching competition even if we don't get through the initial pitch? Yes, you can, but you have to buy a ticket for the conference, because it's part of the conference and it's a full day. So, but it's there, and you can buy directly through the link on our website. So Mark, a huge thank you. I know there's a lot of work in that.
I feel like a bus driver now.
A marathon in terms of what you tried to cover. Really useful, and hopefully it's going to give everybody a wee bit more confidence, a wee bit more focus, and good luck to everybody who is sitting trying to work out which words and what will it say in that very tight few minutes you have. But good luck to everybody, and enjoy the experience. Be confident, be bold, go out there and hope that you're giving it your best shot.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Mark.
Well, thanks for listening. Thanks for inviting me. I really appreciate it. Thanks very much, guys. Enjoy the rest of your day.